Welcome back to the Therapy Diaries. This is Ashna Kalra, your host. Ladies and gentlemen, we're thrilled to welcome our esteemed guest for today's podcast, Dr. Jayashree Sharath. For those who may not be familiar with her work, Dr. Jayashree Sharath is nothing short of a luminary in the field of cosmetic dermatology. With an impressive career spanning 25 years, she has established herself as India's leading celebrity cosmetic dermatologist, earning the trust and admiration of countless individuals from all walks of life. Dr. Sharath's expertise and magical touch have made her the go-to skin specialist and cosmetic dermatologist for a diverse clientele, including Bollywood stars, television personalities, politicians, and celebrities. But Dr. Sharath's influence extends far beyond her clinical practice. She has authored 3 insightful lifestyle books, sharing her wealth of knowledge with a wider audience. She is a TEDx speaker and has won numerous international awards. Today, we have the privilege of delving into Dr. Jayashree's wealth of experience and insights. We'll explore the evolving world of cosmetic dermatology, discussing the intersection of beauty and mental health. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to the remarkable Dr. Jayashree Sharath.
Thank you so much for having me.
Could you introduce yourself and your expertise in the field of dermatology and cosmetology?
Well, I'm Dr. Jayashree Sharath. First of all, thank you for having me here. I've been practicing in Mumbai for the last 25 years. And apart from post-graduating in dermatology, I also did my fellowship in cosmetic dermatology, lasers, injectables in Bangkok and in Miami. And then I started practice. I'm also an international trainer for fillers, Botox, lasers, anti-aging treatments. And nationally also, I conduct a lot of workshops and conferences. And, so teaching is it's my passion. It's my second job that I do. I'm also the founder of Skinfinity Aesthetic Skin and Laser Clinic.
Amazing. So let's delve right into it. Tell us, how did you become interested in cosmetology and what led you to specialize in aesthetic procedures and skincare?
It happened by chance. So I actually wanted to be a pediatrician, and it for some reason did not work out. And then I was studying to be a physician. And then my mom fell ill, so I left everything. I went back to Jamshedpur, where I belong. And when I came back, I had nothing to do. And then I restarted working in Nanavati Hospital as a resident doctor. And then they had a postgraduate seat in dermatology. So it was beggars can't be choosers. I took it up.
Just as it went.
Yeah, so it was not my priority. And I took it up. I became a dermatologist. And Nanavati in those days was one of the first centers for dermatosurgery. So I had that opportunity of learning dermatosurgery, which was vitiligo surgery, acne scars, hair transplants and sebaceous cysts and everything which involves skin and surgery. And then I got a lot of exposure to lasers as well. Back then, I'm talking about 1997, 1998.
Wow.
When all this was very new.
Yeah, correct.
So,
it wasn't the norm.
It wasn't the norm. And it wasn't taught in our postgraduate academics. Yeah. So I was just fortunate that I ended up in this hospital which was one of the first centers. And Dr. Satish Sawant was the pioneer. He's my mentor, my guru. And I think it all just fell in place. And as I finished my post-graduation, I started reading and getting to know about injectables, Botox, fillers, all of that. So, and then I worked with Dr. Sawant for about 4.5 years, and then I went abroad to do my fellowship. So I did my fellowship, and that's how it just happened. So it was not like I want to be, like in today's day and age, everybody wants to be a dermatologist.
Or a cosmetic surgeon or a cosmetologist.
Yes, one of those. But in those days, it wasn't like
Life
that.
happened.
It just happened. It just fell in place.
That's amazing because, we all make plans, but then life happens, right?
Yeah.
And it happened the most beautiful way for you.
It couldn't get better. I mean, I am so fortunate. And I love my job. I'm very passionate about it. So I think God has his plans always.
That's amazing. So, since the Therapy Diaries is based on mental health and wellness, I want to discuss the world of cosmetology that's intertwined with the mental health and the wellness world. How do you think cosmetology can impact a person's self esteem and mental health?
Oh, I think in today's day and age, in a huge way, right? Because there's social media, there's so much of society, pressure, there's peer pressure, and everybody wants to look good. Then there's the selfie culture, and then you have Zoom meetings, and you have everybody posting their best pictures on Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook and all of that. So I think constantly there's that need to look a certain way.
Right.
And sometimes people tend to forget their self-worth and they tend to align it with these, beauty standards which are laid by the society or by the social media.
Right.
And that's where, you have cosmetology coming in. It can have a positive impact and a negative impact.
Right. But as far as the impact is concerned, is obviously huge, right? Our self-esteem is always affected by how we look, how our skin is. If somebody has a lot of acne, their self-esteem tends to go lower, unless the person is very secure and very confident, which is rare. On an average, a girl is very affected by how her skin looks, how her hair looks, how her face looks, how her body looks. So, do you think it's a positive impact in a nutshell, or do you think a negative impact?
No, as I said, it's both. It's a bit of both, right? I mean, it's actually, if you talk about acne and hair loss and color, skin color, so huge, right? I have parents coming in and saying, "Bachpan mein to ye kala, gora tha, ab kala ho gaya." So do something about it. So you're feeding it into the child.
Wow.
So these will create a negative impact, most certainly.
Absolutely.
Where you want to, you're putting it into the child's brain that
the complex
your color
seed has been
it's
put,
there,
yeah.
that you are fat or you are dark or you have pimples or you have scars, and then there are friends who are telling you, and then there are colleagues who are telling you, and your classmates are telling you that you've got acne and you've
Bad
got all
skin.
that, you've got bad skin, you've got hair fall, all that. So it will definitely have, all these have a negative impact, but then cosmetology comes to the rescue.
That's what I'm saying. So
Then it can be a positive impact.
Right.
Unless you're, going overboard, crossing the line, and then trying to do things on your face to look like somebody else.
But that's in any field. I think extreme in any measure in life cannot work for you.
Absolutely.
Only as long as it's done in balance.
Yes.
Whether it be exercise, whether it be food, whether it be anything.
Everything
has to be done in balance. So I think cosmetology, like you said, if in balance, can have a very good impact.
Have a very good impact, yeah.
So tell us, what are some of the potential negative consequences of seeking cosmetic procedures for purely aesthetic reasons?
So as I said, first of all, it can just break your self-esteem and confidence. If I have patients who come and, they don't want to step outside, they don't want to meet people, because they have scars on their face, because they've had acne in the past, or they have active acne and they don't want to step out, they don't have friends, they don't want to go to college, they bunk school, all of that happens. And then, they're not focusing on their studies.
Obviously, because they're so consumed by this.
They're so consumed and they want to do all of this. They want to do a lot of treatments. Fair enough. You treat your acne, fine. But what about all those photographs that are going around and people wanting to have a nose? This is very common now in teenagers. They want lips like Kylie Jenner, Kendall Jenner. They want a nose like somebody. They want a color like somebody. A jawline like somebody, Bella Hadid ka jawline chahiye, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody, there are a lot of people who are now, I recently saw a video where there was this celebrity talking about all the things that she did, and she's very, very young. So then you are putting it in the youngsters' minds that, it's okay to go ahead. If you're 20, so what, you can do it. You're 17, 18, so what, you can do it. And then there is that pressure. And so then they begin to look at themselves in a way that, oh, my nose is not sharp, or my lips are not fuller, or I don't have a good jawline, or I'm obese, or I'm dark, and so I have to do something about this.
Right.
So it's completely shattering their self-esteem, their self-confidence.
I think it's a self-image even.
They're constantly, their self-worth has gone for a toss. You know, they're constantly comparing themselves to others,
Right.
to the society norms, to the, social media beauty trends. There are bizarre trends which come and go. So all of that. And then you go ahead and do certain treatments. Probably you won't even end up looking like somebody that you idolize, because
Yeah.
everybody is unique.
Correct.
Right? And then there is disappointment. And then you've spent money. And then, it's like a vicious cycle. Also, there's something called body dysmorphic disorders.
So, like we discussed, there's positive and there's negative. How do you think individuals can balance the desire for physical appearance with overall a mental good well-being? How do you find the mid ground?
First of all, change the focus from aesthetics to health,
Correct.
right? So it should be a good diet, exercise every day, try to figure out your ways to cope with stress. So all these enemies of skin, stress, smoking, sun exposure, late nights, a poor lifestyle, sugar,
Poor diet.
alcohol, smoking, all of that, yeah. All of that has to take a back seat, and you have to develop positive attitudes and positive attributes and a healthy lifestyle, and automatically the appearance will align itself.
That's true.
That's something that one has to understand. And then, of course, start self compassion and self care.
I think how you feel
Focus
inside
on your
ultimately
inside.
also will show how you look on the outside.
Always.
I think it makes a huge difference. Like I come across people, who visit cosmetic procedures or aesthetic doctors a lot, and I still see them being miserable. I still see them being unhappy with how one eyebrow is looking or one ear is looking or something is looking. And then I know people who are very content and very happy with who they are, how they look. They're very comfortable in their own skin. I'm not saying avoid everything that is available, but I'm saying there has to be a balance, there has to be a mid ground where let's try this because I feel like doing it, but then everything else is okay because I'm confident in who I am, right?
But that is something that has to be cultivated from the time you're born.
No, even if
You
it
know?
isn't, one can work
And then
on it.
of course you can work on it. You can definitely work on it, but somebody has to make you realize that, look, this is right and this is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So if if I am, from the time I'm born, if slowly I'm listening to things like, oh, she's got a flat nose. There was somebody in my, in my family who always oh, for example, me,
Yeah.
For me, it was always, oh, she's so short. So
Yeah, I've got that a lot as well.
And it did play in my mind because they never took me in, for events. They always made me, oh, personality nahi hai, she doesn't have a good personality, she's short, move her away, take the other person for this role. So I was always so interested in extracurricular activities, like skates and whatever we used to do in school and college. But I never got a good whatever role
Place
or
to do it.
place to
Yeah.
do it. Even when I remember in college, we had Sri Rajiv Gandhi ji come, and I was a big, huge fan of his. I was like barely 17, and I was a bright student, but that did not work because they said, "Oh, she's very short and not good looking. Take a good looking, tall girl to
Give the award or the
to
flowers."
welcome him."
Yeah.
And it just hit me so bad. So these are things which will stay with you.
Yeah.
So it's very important that, so when I'm talking about the childhood,
Yeah.
it's so important that I wish at that time I went home and spoke to my dad or my mom, or I cried to them that, this happened. I'm sure they would have said, it's okay. But at that time, I didn't, So these are the things which, again, parents should be very open and they should talk about all this. And then they grow up being, feeling more confident, and whatever it is, they'll go back and talk to their parents. I have a mental health issue, even if they have,
Yes.
and there is no harm in seeking the help of a counselor or a
Absolutely.
therapist.
I think it's almost essential.
Yeah.
With, like you said, the world looking like Kendalls and Kyries, and everybody else wanting to look like that, and even boys. It's not just women.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, the
All
men
the time.
Absolutely, I feel like want to look a certain way as well. So I feel when the world is headed that way, you definitely need somebody to kind of keep your mental health together, to kind of tell you, it's okay if you want to fix your nose, but that doesn't mean you need to look like somebody else.
Yeah.
Fix your nose for yourself.
For yourself,
So that
yeah.
you feel a little better about it. That kind of counseling and therapy, absolutely. I think is almost essential. It's almost a necessity.
Yeah.
As far as cosmetology and mental health are concerned.
Always. I mean, they just go hand in hand, and so I'm a cosmetic dermatologist. I do a lot of procedures. Right? So, but it's my duty to tell them that, okay, this is right for you and this is wrong. You cannot be like a Kylie Jenner or a Bella Hadid. You have to enhance whatever is there in you, and you have to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, you're unique.
Absolutely.
Highlight that.
Just highlight that. That's what I was just telling somebody yesterday, that perfection is not beauty. Your own individuality and unique identity is your beauty, and you have to embrace that and you work on that.
Absolutely.
And when you talk of confidence, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you feel confident with clear, radiant, blemish-free skin.
Yeah.
That is more important than trying to say, this is thinner, or this is, shorter, or this has happened, or my cheek on one side is, a little higher than the other side, or my chin is less projected. Yeah. If something is really nagging you, like you said, if somebody wants to do a nose job, it's really bothering them. There's no harm.
Yeah, if they want to do it just for themselves.
Just for themselves. Go ahead and do it. But don't do it because 10 people are telling you. And secondly, after you've done your nose job, then don't look at, maybe now this needs to be fixed, or this needs to be fixed and that needs to be fixed, because then it's a vicious cycle.
So what are your concerns about young girls seeking cosmetic procedures at a very early age?
It's a little scary, because I have seen people who come at 17, 18, 19 and say, Doc, I want Botox, because they have read that, if you do Botox at an early age, the muscles are not going to move, and so they will not develop wrinkles and lines early.
17, 18.
Yes. Isn't that scary?
We didn't even know the word Botox.
We didn't know the word Botox. I didn't know, being a dermatologist. Much later I got to know. And then I have kids who come in, they're 13, they're 12, who come in with a bag of various, serums, every possible serum from AHA to BHA to this to that. They're using all of it, and then their skin is getting clogged, and then they're getting reactions, so it's both ways. It's treatments as well as, just unrealistic skincare, right? Wanting that glass skin. So it is impacting them. And what is going to happen? If you start Botox at that early an age, your muscles are going to get affected at some point,
Right.
It's like you are dependent, you're getting dependent on these cosmetic procedures to look a certain way. And that is going to impact your mental health at some point.
So don't you think the concern actually here is that at such an early age, they're aware?
Yeah. The awareness starts too early, my love. It starts because there is so much exposure. Right? Yeah. Kids are now, they have access to
information.
Every kind of information.
Yeah.
And whatever child lock you put, they will still get onto social media. I know of 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds who have a social media account. And they're flaunting, they're wearing various clothes, and they're flaunting their, their outfits and whatever. So they know a lot.
Yeah, I think the concern here is knowledge at that age. I mean, if you know about Botox and you know about severe skin routines at 10, then clearly your focus will change from other things. You'll forget who you are, how you look, and your focus will become what I should use, what I should be looking like. So I think exposure at such a young age is not a great idea.
I think, you can't do anything about the exposure, but I think what we should do is get people to talk about things in the right way.
Educate them.
So you have random people coming and talking about, you can do this procedure and look good, and why not? But you should also have qualified people who come out there and say that, okay, do this, but do this at this age. Right? Now we talk about thread lifts. Okay, we talk about, and there are young girls who are in their 20s who want to come and do thread lifts. All right. And now when you
What is a thread lift?
Okay, it's a thread which is inserted into the skin to lift, to pull your skin.
Oh.
So they hardly have laugh lines. Well, we're all born with laugh lines. But they hardly have something like a little bit of show there, that laugh line, and they want to get that lifted. And they feel, oh, my skin is sagging, so I want to lift. And they're doing it.
That's crazy.
There are centers which do it. But listen, understand that when you keep putting threads, at that early an age, your collagen, your natural collagen is going to get affected.
So, how do you think parents and guardians help their children or can help their children develop a positive body image and avoid unnecessary procedures at a young age for all these beauty standards are there in the world?
It starts from the time the child is hardly 5 or 6, right? So from that time onwards, you have to make sure that you are constantly, saying positive things to the child. You are constantly encouraging the child. You are, not pinpointing things like
the
maybe,
imperfections.
or even talking amongst yourselves, and the child is listening. That's also not great. You know, when sometimes the child overhears you saying, I am fat, or I am, not good looking, or my nose is not sharp enough. And so the child, constantly you have parents having these discussions, and the child gets that.
Because
And
they're
the
so
child
innocent, they're
is
going
very
to
innocent. So then the child begins to feel that, oh, being fat is a bad thing.
She's unhappy, I will be as well.
I will be as well. So it starts from there. The second thing is, as I told you, the mother herself saying, ki, the child is so dark, do something about it, doc. Or, or saying that, oh my God, you have a very flat nose. You don't have a nose like me. It's like your whoever, your grandmother, or your those kind of things.
I've heard that.
So you've heard that. And that will stay with the child. And the parents will say it so casually, not realizing.
And no matter how perfect that child is, they will have that complex.
Have that. Or don't eat so much. Nowadays, back in the day, we never had this issue. Parents gave us anything to eat.
They overfed us.
They fed us. They gave us chocolates. They gave us everything. Now I know of parents who will say, no, don't eat chocolates. Don't give them anything. Don't give him sugar. He's a child. Let him have a little bit of sugar. Let her have a little bit of, whatever chocolate cake pastry. In balance. So that is important, because otherwise you're making the person obsess about their weight from that time.
Or obsess about their looks, their body image,
everything.
Their face. Yeah, I think these conversations, you're very right here. I think these conversations lead to making how your appearance is more important than everything else.
Everything else.
And if you make your appearance so important at such a young age, they will forget what to actually focus on in life.
Absolutely.
And that can't be the focus.
Yeah.
The focus can't be just how I look. What happens after that? Okay, you look great. Then after that, what is the next step?
Yeah.
What do you have to offer?
Absolutely. So that, and then parents should encourage open conversations. Parents should help them and motivate them to focus on their health. To eat right, to exercise, to do everything in moderation. Cultivate hobbies.
Absolutely.
Paint, go out there and play some sport, sing, whatever, dance, whatever it takes. But that kind of opens up your mind. It's you are open to so many diverse things.
Yeah.
And your creative mind starts working.
Absolutely.
You're not like just confined within the four walls where you are with your gadgets all the time. And then automatically, because you're so creative, these things will not matter so much to you. Right? You will not be obsessive. Yes, it's important to look and feel good for yourself.
Yeah, for yourself.
For yourself. But then you will not start comparing yourself to everybody all the time. So that's how the parents should bring up the child. I think every parents do that. But somewhere, there's a little bit of a trip here and there.
There is. So what are some of the strategies for helping individuals develop a positive body image and self-esteem regardless of their physical experience? What do you think, some strategies that you can suggest as a healthcare professional?
I think first of all, it's education, right? I think we should encourage more and more professionals, medical health professionals, doctors to come out there and talk on whatever social media channels and talk about it and give a good amount of information. when patients come to you, when these kids come to you for whatever, again, spread the information. Make them understand that skincare is holistic. Skin is not, it is the largest organ of the body. It has so many other functions than just beauty. And, you cannot go by somebody else's beauty standards or whatever trends. You have to focus on yourself. So a lot of education, a lot of, giving real life examples, that this person, for me, like I'm so short, and yet,
you made it.
I sort of made it, whatever it is. I mean, so it's not that a short person or an obese person or a dark person, or whatever it is. I shouldn't say a dark person, but shades of brown, can't make it big in life. Everybody can. So your focus has to be, what is your goal in life? Okay. Where are you going to be authentic? Okay. Because looks are not going to be sustainable, and they're not going to be with you till the end of time.
Yeah.
How are people going to remember you? How do you make people feel about you when you're around?
Yeah. I think it's the energy you carry.
That is so important, because everything else will just fall. You'll be Miss World, Mr. India one day, and next day, after a couple of days, people have forgotten. But you've been kind to that person. You've helped that person. You've been empathetic. You've, inspired that person. Those are the things that the person will remember.
Absolutely.
So become that person.
Yeah. I think the energy you carry, the energy you give, changes the dynamics of how you appear to somebody. Yeah. If our judgment towards ourselves is only based on how we look and, I'm not good enough, my eyes are not good enough, my face, my height, so I think that becomes the judgment of seeing someone else.
Absolutely. You're so right about that. And it's also about how that makes you also become a very positive or very negative person. I'll give you a very simple example. Yesterday I had a patient. She came in, and the moment she came in, she said, "Oh my God, for the last 5 minutes I'm alone, and there's no one at the counter, no one at the counter." And it was not a big thing. Okay, there was no one at the counter. Okay,
Wait.
Trains were running late. My housekeeper said, "Ma'am, the staff have called. They've all said their trains are running late. They come from far off places." But it became such a big issue for her, for that person.
Right.
And I realized that this is not the issue. The issue is something else.
Absolutely.
And this is how you start perceiving, and then you bring out that energy, and then this is how whoever you meet, you're just bringing out that energy. So there's always something behind a person's face. There's a story behind, and that is
that
why
story will
matter more, because that whatever beauty treatment that you do. So also, as health professionals, as doctors, it's very important for us to be very honest and bring out on the plate what are the side effects and the risks of all these procedures that you do.
Correct.
How often should you be doing something?
Yeah, I think the knowledge is very limited out there.
Very limited. And then, and choose the right person. Go to a person who's qualified. Because there are a lot of people who are just doing it for the sake of doing it, for the sake of running a business.
Yeah, there was a show I used to watch in England, and it was based on horrors of surgeries or cosmetic procedures gone wrong. And they were people who, because of cost cutting and less knowledge, would just go to anybody.
Yeah.
So that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
You just have to have knowledge
you
before
have
you
to have
approach
knowledge.
somebody to touch your face or your body.
Yeah. So, and so both are equally important. You need to understand that, okay, for example, a simple thing like a filler. Okay, fine, I'm going in for a filler. How often should I be doing it? Because I've seen people doing it every 6 months. Hello, no.
Yeah.
Okay? If it is for the face, if it's for the chin, come after 2 years. If it's for the under eye, come after a year and a half. Okay, lips will last for about 6 months. So 6, maybe that would be 6. But all the others, don't just keep pumping in. Just because your your doctor has told you, or you've read somewhere, or some influencer has said so.
Yeah.
You need to understand what is going to happen with that filler. Once it's sitting in your skin, how long is it going to sit in your face? What are the side effects? Post doing the treatment, how are you going to look? If you're going to pump in 16 syringes, which somebody else has said, oh, you need like about 8 syringes or 12 syringes or 16 syringes, obviously you're going to alienize the face.
Actually, you're right.
So always less is more. So I'm just talking about fillers, but that's the truth for everything. So a doctor has to be very honest and should talk about all the risks, the side effects, the pros, the cons, and you need to understand that and go ahead. In spite of that, I have people who say, no, I don't care, still do it. So then I have to have that thing in me that no, I don't want to do
yeah,
it.
the resistance has to be there.
It
from
has
your
to
end.
be there.
Yeah.
Now, I know that this
But
is
I think
not
a lot
right.
of doctors will just oblige. So yeah, I think that line has to be drawn, that give the patient what they want, but end of the day, is it good for them? Because they don't know.
I don't
You're
think
the educated professional in that field.
Yeah. And so, as healthcare professionals, as doctors, it's very important for us to be honest and ethical. We should not cross that line and say we're running a business.
That's true. How has the concept of beauty evolved in the recent years? And how do you see it impacting in the field of cosmetology and mental health?
It's such a huge leap, I can't tell you. When I started practice in the year 2000, I used to see 100 patients in a day.
Wow.
And sometimes even more than that. But there would be eczemas, psoriasis, allergies. If you told somebody to use a sunscreen, they would put a question, they would have that question mark on their face that, why are you asking, why do I need it? I don't have a sun allergy. So you could only if you had a sun allergy or a reaction, did you need a sunscreen? Or then people slowly started coming in for acne and hair fall and all of that. Now, slowly, then they started talking lockdown, people suddenly know about all the ingredients and the hyaluronic acid and the AHA and the BHA, which we have been prescribing since donkey's years. Retinol was discovered in 1947.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been there since then. We've been prescribing it. But suddenly now people know it because of beauty bloggers, influencers, pharmaceutical and cosmetic industries which have now cashed on that.
Correct.
And they're just, churning products there and then they're marketing it that way and all of that is happening. So now you have people who talk about Korean skin and glass skin.
Yeah.
They come to you, most of them will come and say, we don't have any skin issues, but we just want our skin to look like glass skin. Well, there is nothing called glass skin. No skin is skin. There's no skin which is perfect. A few imperfections look nice.
Absolutely, I agree.
It's nice. Somebody will come and say, oh, I hate all these moles on my face, they're growing. I don't like these freckles. Freckles are gorgeous.
I agree.
And freckles, we can treat them with lasers, but one beach holiday, they will all come back. So is it worth it? Just embrace those freckles. So all of these. Then, so that was one phase. And then slowly now everybody started coming for whitening procedures, right? Everybody wants to be fair. So yeah, that's the truth. This is a disease.
Sad.
It is something, the fairness thing has been there in our country for donkey's years.
Yeah, it's a mental disease.
And so I've been seeing this fairness thing from the time I was in dermatology, of course. But now it's like rampant. Like from people from villages to people from the biggest cities and all strata, everybody wants to be fair. We're also blessed because we, having shades of brown, have more melanin in us. Eumelanin is protecting us from the harsh effects of ultraviolet A.
Yeah, correct.
Which we forget. Which is why we don't age as fast as the Caucasians. They get wrinkles faster. They get, all these freckles and all faster. Skin cancer, melanomas, squamous cell carcinomas, basal cell carcinomas are so common in the white skin, in the European skin, in the American skin. I barely see skin cancer in Indian skin.
That's true.
That's
true. It's not common.
So it's not common at all. That's because of the melanin. That's because of our color. So, we need to realize that. And we need to embrace that. And we need to be proud of it. We don't age. A 40-year-old Caucasian and a 40-year-old, Indian, the 40-year-old won't look the same. The 40-year-old Indian will look like a 30-year-old, And that's because of the melanin in us. That's because our color is like that.
And yet we haven't embraced it. Despite all the education moving forward, knowledge on hyaluronic acid, but then there's no knowledge on embracing the skin color that you have.
Yeah. There's some societies and some, like, movements they've started, like Dark is Beautiful. I think Nandita Das started it, and some others also are doing it, but minuscule.
Yeah, I don't think
minuscule.
it's made an impact.
It's not
because
yet made an
by and
impact.
large, the society is still very color driven, and
Yeah.
they really need to be fair to
Yeah.
to be considered pretty.
To be considered pretty. So that. Then finally comes the leap of, the era of where everybody wants to look a certain way and do fillers and Botox and thread lifts and anti-aging treatments and
The
all of
plump
that.
face.
The pillow face. You have apple cheeks. You have lips walking in before the person is walking into the
That's
room.
it.
So, I don't know where we're going. I don't know why we shouldn't. When you're looking at yourself in the mirror, how do you perceive yourself? Why don't you understand that trying to look like somebody is not going to make you unique?
Or it's not going to make you happy.
So it's not going to be
necessarily
happy
in the long
also.
term.
Yeah. So I do have patients who will now come for, even men, who will now come for, for all kinds of treatments. And there's no harm. I'm not saying, it's my job, it's my profession, I do it. But don't cross the line, is what we always
Have a
say.
balance.
Have a balance, don't be obsessive about it.
How can you describe a transformative experience you've had with a patient that changed your perspective on the relationship between physical appearance and self-worth?
So, I'll tell you one story. I had this, it's about maybe 15 years ago. I had this 38, 39-year-old lady who would come for a lot of treatments. Everything from skin brightening to, every little blemish on her face mattered. Then she was like, oh, my skin is sagging. So she did all the skin tightening treatments that we offer, the radio frequency, this, that. Whatever she did and whatever I did for her, and I thought maybe I did a fairly decent job, she was never happy. She was never happy. Okay? There was a little dent on her nose over here. There was a hump here. So I fixed that with a filler. I said, okay, instead of a surgery, let's do this. So, because she didn't want to do a surgery. So we did that for her. Then, so whatever. She had some mole which she didn't like. I said, okay, chalo, we'll remove that for you. We worked, I helped her out, with a nutritionist and helped her get her BMI right. And she had diabetes. So we sorted that for her. Everything but never happy. Whatever we did, never happy. Only cribbing. To the extent that at some point I started feeling that, oh my God, she's coming today. Or I would actually think of telling my staff that don't give her an appointment.
Yeah.
I can't deal with her. There's a lot of negative energy and she's never happy. So why can't she just go to some other dermatologist? Because she's not happy with me.
Correct.
Why is she coming back to me all the time?
But she was actually unhappy with herself.
Yeah. So what was it? So one fine day, I was really fed up. So I said, listen, I'm really sorry, but I am now beginning to judge my own ability and my own work. And it's sort of, my confidence is shaking. So with due respect, I think you should go to another dermatologist because I am not, the right person for you. And I'm not being able to, meet with whatever you want, whatever your expectations are. And no, doc, I trust you so much and you don't see, I keep coming back to you. I said, that's the point, which I haven't been, that's the puzzle I can't fix. Because why are you coming back to me?
Why are you still miserable after everything?
Yeah. Then she started crying. Crying, and I'm like, okay, holy, what's happening? It's an old story because this is when my early years of practice. So, and I'm like, okay, calm down. What is it? What is it? Cut to, she's opened her Pandora's box. And the story is that her husband is a very influential man. He has a lot of women who come and meet him. And they're very attractive women. And obviously he's like, indulging in some of them outside of the house. And she wants to look beautiful all the time. But it's not changing the game. And that's bothering her. So I said, but by doing all of this and making you look however beautiful or 10 years younger or whatever, has his mindset changed?
Yeah, the marriage can't change.
It hasn't changed. So there is something else which you need to tap if you want to save your marriage. And then we had discussions, and then we sort of said, okay, let's meet, fix a counselor for you, let's do some therapy, let's, get your mental health perspective sorted. And I said, start doing things just for yourself. You have to begin to love yourself first. Don't think my husband, now everything is around my husband doesn't love me because I am ugly. That has to get out of your mind. You have to look gorgeous to yourself.
Absolutely.
And so we had all of this, and then it was a journey. It also taught me a lesson that, every person who's walking into your clinic has a story behind what they're actually showing.
Yeah.
Everybody has a facade. And yes, some people are happy and they're like,
Confident.
they're confident and they just want to be more confident, and so they want to do this. Or some people genuinely have acne and genuinely have hair fall issues, and
Yeah.
like, okay, everybody is, my family is balding, doc, I don't want to, so let's start
Correct.
something. Fine, start on some vitamins, start on some applications. Even though you're 22, that's fine, prevention is better than cure. But then there are also a huge chunk of people who have these kind of stories. And so it's very important for a doctor not to just write a prescription, or not to just say, oh, I think, you've got under eye hollows and you've got dark circles, so you need fillers or you need lasers and all that. No. Why do you have the dark circle?
Yeah.
Let's get to the crux of it.
Yeah, what's happening in your life?
What's happening in your life? Are you sleeping well? Are you stressed? Are you learning to cope with your stress? Because that is hand in hand with whatever treatments we do for you.
Absolutely. How we look
Otherwise-
is also how lifestyle is, and what's making it
come to that,
Yeah.
right? So that's when I started, like, okay, no, I need to spend more time with my patients and not just be the cosmetic dermatologist or just a dermatologist to them. I
Yeah.
have to also probably be a sort of a therapist, or one of
A
those
guide.
one of those step one therapists
Yeah.
who will hold your hand and say, okay, let's do
Let's
this
take you to the
together,
door.
and then take you to the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my life lesson that I've learned.
Amazing. I think that's beautiful, because what she said is absolutely right. The inner and outer are intertwined in such a complex way. And as a professional, especially on the outer side that you are, to be able to understand the inner mental health and beauty is absolutely astounding.
So there's another thing. Nowadays, I see a lot of, with due respect to everybody, all my colleagues and everybody, but I see a lot of people focusing and inclined on doing beauty treatments. So, I have come to you for acne or for atopic dermatitis, which can be miserable. I have atopic dermatitis. It's a kind of eczema where when you're stressed, you start scratching. You have, or if
you
you
get
have,
the red.
yeah, no, you get like proper eczema. You wear something which is not agreeing with you, say a perfume or a leather jacket or a metal, some buckle, which is, your belt with some buckle.
Any surface.
You'll get, any contact. And if you're allergic to it, you get eczemas. And that itching can be very, very, it can just, sort of be traumatizing, because you can't focus on anything else.
Correct. Then your mind is there.
Your mind is there. Or acne, right? So this child, he was 17 years old, and he, with great difficulty, he came to me. He had taken an appointment at least 4 times and cancelled it. I'm talking about 2001, 2002, when I had started my
Wow.
practice, yeah. Cancelled it, came to the clinic, saw a whole bunch of females, so ran back saying, oh, I can't. So all of that happened. Finally, he mustered courage and came to me. His face was full of acne. He made no friends. He was not interested in studies. He was, he would just lock himself in one room.
Yeah.
He would not talk to his relatives. Why? Because he said every auntie had a remedy to give and nothing was working.
Because everybody only spoke about his skin to him.
Yeah. So he was like, I tried everything that every friend or auntie or colleague or whoever meets me, even in the local train, they say, "Arey, ye laga lo, tumhara chehra theek ho jayega." So it was very, very, sort of traumatizing, and his entire self-esteem was going down. It was psychologically debilitating for him. So he barely spoke. Whatever questions I asked him, he spoke in monosyllables. And I'm like, what is this child and how am I going to treat him? Anyway, so we started the journey, and he'd come every 2 weeks, and I'd give him some medicines and, some creams, and then talk to him a little. Slowly, it took us about 6 months to cure that acne. Acne is never curable, but at least you can control it.
Correct.
So his face cleared up. And then he had some scars and all of that. Slowly, for the first time after 6 months, his father came to me. He said, I wanted to see who this person is who's changed my son's life. Because now he is focusing on his classes, he is meeting people, he's going, for whatever extracurricular activities, he's going to play soccer, he's made some friends.
He's confident.
And so I learned another thing there, that the patient has to be compliant, but you also have to hold the patient's hand and walk together with the patient and not say, "Arey, dawa likh diya, kar raha hai to karo, nahi karna hai to mat karo."
Correct.
You need to make the person understand that this is going to take 4 months and I'm with you in this. And I'm not just writing a prescription and saying you want to do. Or no, I think, you've come for acne, but I am looking at your dark circles. I think you need to do under eye fillers.
So how do you maintain your own self-care and mental health while working in an industry that can be emotionally demanding? And also it is, it's got these standards, beauty standards. How do you take care of that for yourself?
Initially it was very, very, very difficult, I have to tell you, because, I came from a lower middle class family. B, I always had this in mind that I'm very short. And in college, of course, they said she doesn't have a personality. So that was there in me, that, I don't have a personality. And then to start seeing patients and to be able to communicate with them, and slowly when you are into cosmetic dermatology and, life took a full U-turn for me and gave me these high-profile patients who I used to get intimidated.
Of course, yeah.
Somebody who's coming in, carrying a Gucci and or coming in like an Audi or whatever, you do get intimidated. You don't know how to talk to them. You want to do your best for them,
Yeah.
because, oh my God, they've come to you. You're a small person. So my initial years of struggle, those first maybe from 2000 to 2006, it was quite a torture, And then I worked on myself. My dad and my mom have a huge role, to play in shaping me, and believing in myself.
Absolutely.
So and also my teacher. I always speak of him, Dr. Satish Sawant. He always taught me that academics is very important. My mom always said, don't do anything but do not, lose your academics. Always focus on your academics. If you have a qualification, you can be something. And you don't have to, ask anyone for money just to fend for yourself. So that was something that mom always taught. Dad always taught me to be a perfectionist. Whatever it was, he was a perfectionist. So he was like, jhadu bhi karna hai, to you have to do it so well that you don't see a speck also on the floor. That was dad. So that was always there. And so I focused a lot of on academics. And I let my knowledge speak.
Yeah.
So slowly, I started realizing that because of my knowledge and because of my work, people are getting better, their skin is getting better, they're feeling confident, and they are in turn supporting me by spreading the word. And there's always word of mouth is better.
Yeah,
it's the best PR, and they believe in me. I must be doing something right, and that's why they believe in me. So I guess then slowly I worked on myself, and I was a very like a tomboy in school, college, never really bothered about what I wore, what I did and stuff. But then, slowly I started working on myself, and but but whatever I was comfortable with.
Yeah.
I never, even today, I'm not a brand person. I will wear some brands because of the society. Again, you move, you go somewhere here and there. But on a regular day, I'm not a brand person. I'm a very normal human
Comfortable
being.
in your
very
skin.
comfortable in whatever I'm wearing and whatever. I mean, I wear scrubs at work all the time. I was the first person to start wearing scrubs in India, I think. 2016, I was wearing
Really?
scrubs. Yeah. That's when I started wearing scrubs. And then when I was in the 9th grade, my dad, on my birthday, he gave me a book, The Autobiography of a Yogi, Yogananda's book. And that book, of course, at that time I read and I didn't really understand much. But that book kept coming back to me. And slowly when, in college, when I was doing my medicine, MBBS, those were the days when I started reading it again. And so there was a spiritual side to me. And I read a lot of books. Even today I read a lot of books on spirituality, and so that is something that also helped me a lot. Keeping myself grounded all the time.
Yeah, because I think
it's
in
very
your
important.
profession, you would meet, and like when I was researching your background, you have met people from the Bollywood industry to politicians to people who I think have access to all sorts of beauty, cosmetic procedures or whatever it may be. So I think it can be very intimidating.
Yeah.
Right. End of the day, you might sit there and think this person already has everything going for them. They still want 4 injections. They still want 4. So I think it can work both ways.
Yeah.
Where it makes you realize that you are good as you are. At the same time, oh wow. So does it make you question how you look?
No, not at all. I think I have crossed that now. All that happened in those first 6 years, 2000 to 2006.
You were young then.
I was young then. But, from childhood, I've always been a good orator. So when I started speaking, and I started all my international lectures, and I was invited right from the year 2006, and I could speak in front of an audience of 3,000. And when I went down, they would always applaud, and that gave me a lot of confidence. So I guess somewhere all that creeped in, and that confidence slowly started building in. So I never actually have been very confident that way, and fortunate, I would say, that I don't get intimidated by how a person looks, or how a person brings himself or herself to be, and walks into the clinic now any longer. That was definitely there the first 6 years. But after that, it just sort of changed, because once I started speaking, once I started realizing, listen, they come to me because they don't know.
Yeah, it's self-worth.
They are suffering from some sort of skin ailment. They have acne, they have eczemas, they have hair fall issues, they have hyperpigmentation, and I can help them out. That is why they're coming to me. So where's the big deal? I think I look okay. I have this thing about myself that I look gorgeous.
That's amazing. I think everyone should think that about themselves.
So if you ask my siblings, they'll say, so if they say, oh, you look good, I'm like, yeah, I always do. That'll be my answer. So I've had this thing about me all the time. Although there was this short wala phase because of college and school
Being
and
told
whatever, repeatedly. But look-wise, I thought, no. I'm fairly a good, gorgeous-looking person.
You are. You absolutely are. So what advice? Sorry.
But also, you have to work on yourself. Each and every individual, you have to sort of learn to mold yourself, meditate, be mindful of what you're doing, you're speaking, cultivate some hobbies, give yourself some me time. I always do that. I'm a very disciplined person. When I go out for dinner with my husband, I don't carry my phone.
That's amazing.
When I travel abroad, every little detail is given to my associates, and if there's an emergency, they will bother me. But otherwise, they're not supposed to then, bother me with which appointment to give, what to do, and this, product has come and should be. No, those things can wait, because right now, I am focusing on my lectures that I'm giving abroad at these international conferences. So at a given point of time, if I'm doing something, I will put my 100% in.
Prioritize it.
Also, I have cultivated that over a period of time.
Yeah, I think
And I think
discipline
that's-
brings a great amount of happiness in oneself.
Yeah. So you need to wake up at 5 means you need to wake up at 5. You have to meditate for 20 minutes. You have to do it. You want to practice journaling. A patient of mine taught me that. I've started doing that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You must do that. It helps.
Yeah.
And that's how you learn to cope with stress. Otherwise, everybody has stress.
Correct.
Right? And stress can kill you. So stress can affect not just your internal organs, and not just your mental health, but also your skin.
Your skin. Absolutely. I think skin makes a big... skin is affected a lot with how we feel.
Yeah.
And if we are stressed, our skin starts to break out. Or I think people age faster when they have too much going on and they don't know how to compartmentalize their life. I think it starts to show.
Absolutely.
I think skin shows how you feel within.
Always.
Absolutely. You're right.
Your skin is the window to your inner self. See, all brides who are getting married are always glowing.
Yeah.
Unless they are getting married out of force.
Force, yeah.
Because every bride is glowing, irrespective of what treatments, whether they do treatments or not. Your positive hormones, your serotonin, your oxytocin, that is working. So it's very important to understand that your inner health will always show on your face.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give to your younger self about navigating the beauty industry and maintaining a healthy self-image?
To my younger self, I would say, love yourself, feel confident about yourself, do not compare yourself to anybody else, do not believe in what other people say. Look at yourself, and then, if you feel that something needs to be worked upon, that's all right. But do not take criticism to your heart. Take it in a positive way. Don't change yourself. Individuality is everything. Individuality is
really
unique.
is. If we all look like clones, where would be the fun?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if we all look like one another, there'd be no fun in that.
Yeah.
Finally, what message would you like to convey to young people who are struggling with beauty standards and considering cosmetic procedures which they may or may not need?
This is so pertinent in today's day and world. The first thing is that, embrace yourself. Most important, learn to love yourself. Focus on creative things that you love to do. You've always wanted to paint, focus on that. You wanted to dance, focus on that. You wanted to study, focus on that. Because looks is not everything at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It is very important to feel confident. So look good to yourself. And if something's nagging you, just go and correct that. But don't become obsessive. There is something called body dysmorphic disorders, where every time you look in the mirror, you're finding a flaw, in yourself. That this part of my face is not the same as this part, or this eye is droopy, or this eyelid is a little crooked, or my nose is crooked, or my body, is not in that particular curvy shape, or even boys, my chin is not proper, I don't have a good jawline, and all of that. So one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
And that is body dysmorphia. You need therapy if you're getting into that. So be aware of that and be aware. And do not fall for the society's, beauty trends and standards.
Yeah.
Something is there today, tomorrow it changes.
It changes. I remember, I think in the 70s or 80s when I was researching for this show, in 70s and 80s, women of a particular size were considered amazingly beautiful.
If they were voluptuous, they were beautiful.
Exactly. And then I think in the early 2000s, you had to be
skinny.
no body shape at all. You had to be just skin and bones to be considered beautiful. And now we're back heading towards a fuller body, a fuller face, a fuller everything.
Everything.
So I think it keeps changing. And then if we keep changing ourselves, made according to that, then I think we've lost the battle.
Absolutely. So it's very important, as I keep saying, that just work towards being the best versions of yourself. That's all that you have to do. Yes, you should opt for certain, you should follow a good skincare routine. Doesn't mean you have to do 10 layers.
Yeah.
You know, you can just do a moisturizer and a sunscreen in the day, and maybe a serum and a moisturizer at night. Don't forget to remove your makeup. You know, healthy eating, sleeping on time, regularizing your sleep cycle, exercising, you know, not smoking, indulging in smoking, vaping, Juul, and all of that, because that's going to,
Yeah.
you know, have a negative impact on your skin. So focus on all that. Skincare is holistic. So do that. And then, of course, if you have acne, treat it. If you have hyperpigmentation that's bothering you, treat it. If you have some imperfection which is really, really bothering you, treat that. And maybe you want to look 5 years younger, great. You know, you don't want to look tired and haggard if you have really, you know, this is for more mature people. I'm talking of people who are in their late 30s. You know, they have sunken eyes, they have tired eyes, and you want to do a little filler under the eye, it's fine. You want to do a little lip filler because as we age, the upper lip starts to become thinner. That's
Really?
fine. Yeah, it does. Because the bone goes, the fat goes, so our entire face starts to sag. So it's okay to do a little bit of skin tightening, a little bit of preventative treatment, you know, to not to look like 20 when you're 40. But
You can't possibly.
you can't. You can. But you will look like an alien.
Extreme measures.
You look like an alien. Yeah, you look like an alien version of yourself. Also, youngsters should understand that, you know, what is good for somebody else or for their favorite actor, for their favorite influencer, may not necessarily be good for them, be it a procedure or a product, a
Yeah,
skincare
absolutely.
product, because your features and your skin are both unique, you know. So, and sometimes remember, they're probably using a lot of makeup or filters, you know.
I think most people
Most people are.
airbrushed
So,
photographs of you know, everything that's sold to us.
all our smartphones also today, you try to take a normal picture, you never get that.
Yeah, there's some
You
sort
know,
of
there's
editing.
some sort of editing that happens. So don't go by those, you know, social media pictures and posts and things like that. You know, you should not get influenced by them.
I
Just
think it's very difficult. I think, you know, maintaining that mental balance of consuming only how much is required, because as humans we tend to get influenced by whatever we are exposed to a lot.
and that is why you need either, you know, doctors who will guide you the right way if when it comes to your skin or your body, and you need certain counselors and therapists who will also guide you the right way, apart from your family. Your family should also be able to support you and guide you the right way.
I think it's a great balance we've discussed, you know, between outer beauty and inner beauty. You, I think, are a very profound professional to kind of say you have to indulge in the inner beauty, not just outer beauty, even though you're a cosmetic dermatologist. And I think to promote both worlds, I think it's absolutely gracious of you. And we hope that our listeners can, you know, have the right takeaway of balance from this episode.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you so much, Ashna, for doing this, because what a wonderful platform. You know, what a, you know, the much needed platform, you know, today. So I congratulate you and I wish you all the best. And I really thank you for having me.
Thank you. This has been Therapy Diaries. Thank you so much. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.